children. Today we will start our next topic, the rise of nationalism in Europe. Firstly, we will discuss about the emergence of the concept of nation states. Children, during 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force and it brought massive changes in the political and mental world of the Europe. ये जो इमर्जेंस हुआ नेशन स्टेट्स का, इट वॉज इन प्लेस ऑफ मल्टी नेशनल डायनेस्टिक एम्पायर्स. मतलब मल्टी नेशनल डायनेस्टिक एम्पायर्स का समय अभी ओवर हो गया और आ गए नेशन स्टेट्स. अब ये नेशन स्टेट क्या है? इट इज़ वन in which the majority of its citizens, including its rulers, come to develop a sense of common identity as a prevalent one and shared history or descent. This commonness was achieved through struggles, through the actions of the leaders and the common people. मतलब ये नेशन स्टेट्स को बनाने में मेजर रोल प्ले किया था इनके लीडर्स ने, जो सभी लोगों को यूनाइट कर पाते हैं. आपने पढ़ा था फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन. नाउ कम्स द फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन एंड द आइडिया ऑफ नेशन. इफ़ यू रिमेंबर, यू नो दैट फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन इट अकर्ड इन 1789 विच paved the way for modern nation states. इसने पूरी दुनिया पे असर डाला था and also had a big part in the birth of nationalism. सारी दुनिया को 3 चीज़ें मिली थी इससे: equality, liberty और fraternity. Across Europe, French revolutionaries questioned the old monarchical order. और उनके इसी क्वेश्चन ने, रीज़न ने कि क्यों मोनार्की हमें रूल करेगी, इसने लोगों को एनकरेज किया for what? For the development of a popular nationalism which was committed to redraw the political map of the continent. The idea of la patrie and les citoyens. अभी सबके अंदर एक भावना जगानी ज़रूरी थी कि वो सब एक हैं. उन सब को यूनाइट करने के लिए what was done? From the very beginning, the French revolutionaries introduced various measures and practices. क्यों ये measures और practices? क्योंकि जब सब एक जैसा चलेंगे, एक जैसे वर्ड्स का इस्तेमाल करेंगे, एक भाषा बोलेंगे, एक यूनिट्स और मेयर को यूज़ करेंगे, then definitely they will be united. So what they did? They introduced various measures and practices that could create a sense of collective identity. Like the idea of la patrie means the fatherland and les citoyens means the citizens amongst the French people. और इसी तरीके से सब यूनाइट हो जाएंगे. These ideas emphasized the nation of a united community. बेटा, जैसे हमारे अंदर एक परिवार के अंदर एक यूनाइटेड भावना होती है, पूरे देश के अंदर एक ये फील ऑफ यूनिटी लाना, उनको ये एहसास कराना कि यस दे ऑल आर एन्जॉइंग इक्वल राइट्स अंडर ए कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. इसके लिए एक फ्रेंच फ्लैग इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया. द ट्राई कलर वॉज चोजन टू रिप्लेस द फॉर्मल रॉयल स्टैंडर्ड. नाउ कम्स सेंट्रल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सिस्टम. ये सिस्टम जो था, इट वॉज पुट इन प्लेस and it formulated uniform laws for all the citizens within its territory. यानी ये जो सेंट्रलाइज एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सिस्टम था, ये सब के लिए एक साथ एक जैसा इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया. रीजनल जो डायलेक्ट्स थे उनको डिस्करेज किया गया और फ्रेंच भाषा को कॉमन लैंग्वेज के तौर पे मान लिया गया. एंड इट वॉज स्पोकन एंड रिटन इन पेरिस. When the news of the events in France reached the different cities of Europe, students and other members of educated middle class began setting up Jacobins Club. आपको याद है जैकोबिन्स क्लब के लीडर कौन थे? मैक्सिमिलियन रॉबेस्पियर. With the outbreak of revolutionary wars, द फ्रेंच आर्मीज स्प्रेड द आइडिया ऑफ नेशनलिज्म अब्रॉड, यानी कि अब ये फ्रांस से आगे चलते हुए पूरे यूरोप में स्प्रेड होने. नेक्स्ट इज नेपोलियनिक कोड. Even though Napoleon destroyed democracy in France, but he incorporated revolutionary principles by introducing the Civil Code of 1804. इसको नेपोलियनिक कोड भी कहा जाता था. This came to be known as Napoleonic Code. The code removed all the privileges बेस्ड ऑन बर्थ. दिस इज फर्स्ट. उसने कहा कि ना, जन्म के आधार पर कोई भी प्रिविलेज किसी को एंजॉय नहीं करने दिया जाएगा. ही एस्टैब्लिश्ड इक्वलिटी बिफोर द लॉ एंड सिक्योर्ड द राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी. द फ्यूडल सिस्टम वॉज ऑल्सो अबॉलिश्ड इन कंट्रीज लाइक डच रिपब्लिक, स्विट्ज़रलैंड, इटली एंड जर्मनी. जो पीजेंट्स थे उनको सर्फडम से फ्री कर दिया गया. एंड मेनोरियल ड्यूज़ मीन्स अगर उनके कोई ड्यूज़ रह जाते हैं, उनकी कोई बेगार काटनी है, उससे उनको फ्री कर दिया गया. गिल्ड सिस्टम को भी रिमूव किया गया एंड ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम को इम्प्रूव किया जाता है. देयर वॉज एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ यूनिवर्सल लॉज, स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड वेट्स एंड मेजर्स एंड कॉमन नेशनल करेंसी, जिससे बेनिफिट मिलेगा हर किसी को और हर सेक्शन ऑफ सोसाइटी को एक जैसा काम करने को मिलेगा. लेकिन जो ये नया एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव अरेंजमेंट था, ये अश्योर नहीं कर पाया सभी को पॉलिटिकल फ्रीडम, जो क्योंकि वहाँ पे इंक्रीज्ड जो हो गए थे टैक्सेस, मींस सेंसरशिप हो गई थी. फ्रेंच की जो आर्मीज थी उनको रिक्वायरमेंट किस चीज़ की थी कि वो रेस्ट ऑफ द यूरोप को भी कॉन्कर करेंगे. ये चेंजेस आए थे बेटा नेपोलियनिक कोड में. और अब आता है फ्रेडरिक सोर्यू. आपके बुक में जो ये फर्स्ट पिक्चर बनी हुई है, ये क्या समझा रही है? दिस इज द पिक्चर मेड बाय फ्रेडरिक सोर्यू एंड इट शोज द मेकिंग ऑफ द नेशनलिज्म इन यूरोप. ये 1848 में एक फ्रेंच आर्टिस्ट जिसका नाम फ्रेडरिक सोर्यू था, उन्होंने विजुअलाइज किया था उनका एक स्वप्न, जो कि दुनिया को ध्यान में रखते हुए उन्होंने बनाया, जिसे डेमोक्रेटिक एंड सोशल रिपब्लिक्स के नाम से जाना जाता है. ही प्रिपेयर्ड ए सीरीज ऑफ 4 प्रिंट्स. इन द फर्स्ट प्रिंट, peoples of Europe and America are shown marching and paying homage to the Statue of Liberty. ये जो स्टैचू ऑफ लिबर्टी है, इसको पर्सोनीफाई किया गया है एक फीमेल फिगर के तौर पे, जो उनके हाथ में है एक टॉर्च ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट और दूसरी तरफ है चार्टर ऑफ राइट्स ऑफ द मैन इन द अदर हैंड. नाउ बेटा कम्स द मेकिंग ऑफ नेशनलिज्म इन यूरोप. अगर हम मिड 18th सेंचुरी का मैप देखें यूरोप का, तो वी विल फाइंड दैट देयर वाज नो नेशन स्टेट लाइक टुडे. नाउ what we know as Germany, Italy and Switzerland was divided into kingdoms and cantons whose rulers had their autonomous territories. यानी कि ये देश जिस नाम से आज जाने जाते हैं ये नहीं थे, ये किसी एम्पायर का हिस्सा थे. They did not share a collection identity or a common culture. They spoke different languages and belonged to different ethnic groups. बेटा हैब्सबर्ग जो एम्पायर था which ruled over ऑस्ट्रिया हंगरी, ये एक पूरा पैचवर्क था. बहुत से रीजन्स इसमें शामिल थे, बहुत सारे लोग इसमें आए थे. द ओनली टाई जो इनको बाइंड करता था, वो इन डाइवर्स ग्रुप्स को जो एक टुगेदरनेस की फीलिंग देता था, एक कॉमन डेडिकेशन थी जिसके प्रति, वो था इनका एम्परर एक था. इवन दो देयर वेर मैनी डिफरेंसेस, बहुत सारे भेदभाव होने के बाद भी जो कुछ सेवरल फैक्टर्स थे जिन्होंने नेशन स्टेट्स को बनाया, वो कुछ बातें इनमें कॉमन थी. फर्स्ट, राइज ऑफ न्यू मिडिल क्लास. लोग सामने आने लगे, मिल करके अपने देश की संरचना डिसाइड करने लगे. स्प्रेड ऑफ आइडियोलॉजी ऑफ लिबरलिज्म. तीसरा था द न्यू स्पिरिट ऑफ कंजर्वेटिज्म एंड द ट्रीटी ऑफ वियना, और आया बाद में द राइज ऑफ रेवोल्यूशनरीज, द एरिस्टोक्रेसी एंड द न्यू मिडिल क्लास. Socially or politically, a landed aristocracy was the dominant class in the continent. They owned estates and property, both in the countryside and town houses. मतलब बेशुमार पैसा, बहुत अमीरी, एक नहीं उनके अनेकों घर. They spoke French and their families were connected by the ties of marriage. मतलब आज नहीं, उस ज़माने में भी सिर्फ अमीर और अमीर के बीच में ही रिश्ते होते थे. दिस एरिस्टोक्रेट क्लास वॉज न्यूमेरिकली अ स्मॉल ग्रुप. बेशक वो गिनती में कम थे, और जो मेजॉरिटी के लोग थे वो थे पीजेंट्स. वेस्ट साइड में ज़्यादातर लैंड जो ओन किया था वो टेनेंट्स थे, स्मॉल ओनर्स थे. लेकिन जो ईस्टर्न और सेंट्रल यूरोप में थे वहाँ पे जो वास्ट एस्टेट्स थे और जो लैंड कल्टीवेट किया जाता था वहाँ पे सर्फडम अभी कॉन्टिन्यूड था. वेस्ट और सेंट्रल पार्ट जो था यूरोप का, वहाँ पे एमर्जेंस हुआ कमर्शियल क्लासेस का, जिन्होंने उनकी एग्जिस्टेंस जो बेस करती थी वो थी प्रोडक्शन पे. कि कौन सा प्रोडक्शन? जिसको कि वो कमर्शियलाइज फॉर्म में मार्केट में बेच सकते थे. और आने वाले समय में ड्यू टू इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन जो नया सोशल ग्रुप डेवलप हुआ वो था वर्किंग क्लास. एक ऐसे क्लास जो कि मिडिल क्लास के नाम से जाना जाता था. उन्होंने इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट्स को और ज़्यादा पैसा कमा के देने के लिए और बिजनेसमैन को, प्रोफेशनल्स को, इन सब को अब ये मिडिल क्लास एक्सेप्ट करने लगे. इट वॉज अमंग द एजुकेटेड लिबरल मिडिल क्लासेज द आइडिया ऑफ नेशनल यूनिटी गेन्ड पॉपुलरिटी. कि अगर वो सब यूनाइट हो जाते हैं तो डेफिनेटली दे विल हैव देयर ओन नेशन विद देयर ओन सेपरेट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. नाउ आवर टॉपिक इज व्हाट डिड लिबरल नेशनलिज्म स्टैंड फॉर. Ideas of national unity in the early 19th century Europe were closely related to the ideology of liberalism. Now, what is this liberalism? For the new middle classes, the liberalism stood for freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. That is, all individuals would be free and equal before the law. Clear now? Throughout the 19th and early 20th century, there were the movements demanding equal political rights. Means the people did movements to get universal suffrage or the right to vote. In France, the right to vote and to get elected was granted exclusively to property owning persons. Men without properties and women were excluded from this right. You know, in class 9th we talked about active and passive citizens of France. Men without properties and women were excluded. That is, they all were passive citizens. Children, if you remember, with this, the form of National Assembly, this all happened in France. In the economic sphere, liberalism stood for the freedom of markets and the abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Means the producer or the seller should be left free from selling their products anywhere, anytime. Hence, in 1834, a customs union or Zollverein was formed at the initiative of Prussia. It was joined by most of the German states. The union abolished all tariff barriers, means the products to be sold out, and reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to mere 2. Next is the new conservatism after 1815. Children, following the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, European governments were driven by a spirit of conservatism. Means they wanted to re-establish their own autocratic powers once again. Conservatives believed that established traditional institutions of state and society like the monarchy, the church, social hierarchies, property, and the family, it all should be preserved back again. They were all willing to avoid constitutional administration. Now, the European powers like Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, they all collectively had defeated whom? Napoleon. They all met at Vienna to draw up a settlement for Europe. And what was this settlement? Again, to re-establish conservatism. The Congress was hosted by Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich, and they drew up the Treaty of Vienna of 1815. Now let us look into the major points of the Treaty of Vienna. This you can get in form of a separate question that explain or discuss the major points of Treaty of Vienna. The major thing was the Bourbon dynasty. Bourbon dynasty, to whom Louis XVI used to belong to, which had been deposed during the French Revolution, was restored to power. Means all the task of National Assembly, it went back. Bourbon dynasty, power, it got restored. France lost the territories it had annexed under Napoleon. You remember Napoleon has worked a lot to get number of territories added to France. It all went off. Next, a series of states were set up on the boundaries of France to prevent its expansion in future. That is, the boundaries of France were limitized. That's the Kingdom of Netherlands, which included Belgium, was set up in north, and Genoa was added to Piedmont in the south. Prussia was given important territories on the western front. Austria was given the control of northern Italy. German Confederation of 39 states that had been set up by Napoleon, it was left untouched. In the east, Russia was given part of Poland, while Prussia was given a portion of Saxony. Now all these divisions were done. Why? Because the main intention of the Congress was to restore monarchy that had been overthrown by Napoleon, and again create a conservative order in Europe. This was the basic task behind this Treaty of Vienna. Conservative regimes set up in 1815 were completely autocratic in nature. Most of them, they imposed censorship laws to control what was said in newspapers. Now this is what censorship is, to control what is said in the newspapers. It was all being checked by those autocrats firstly. If anything goes in negative, it was all stopped immediately. Books, plays and songs, and reflected the idea of liberty and freedom associated with the French Revolution, that was all suppressed over there. Okay, now recapitulating this all in nutshell, we can say that for the restoration of conservatism, Treaty of Vienna was implemented, which once again re-established autocracy, and also it terrified all the revolutionaries. The revolutionaries during these years following 1815, they were with the fear. Fear of what? Fear of repression. Drove many liberal nationalists underground. Means it was not the time to come forward and revolt again and again. Main objective of revolutionaries were to oppose monarchical forms that had been established after the Vienna Congress, and to fight for liberty and freedom. Means they wanted to get collected, to recollect their power, and then they could come forward to revolt. Most of these revolutionaries saw the creation of nation states as a necessary part of this struggle for freedom. Children, we are going through topic the age of revolutions 1830 to 1848. Now the topic is hunger, hardship and popular revolt. 1830s were the year of great economic hardships in Europe. The first half of 19th century. Children, when we say first half of 19th century, it means 1801 to 1850. The first half of 19th century saw an enormous increase in population all over the Europe. And you know, when population increases, what are the basic requirements? Food, clothing and shelter, roti, kapda or makan. When the population from rural areas started migrating to the cities to live in overcrowded slums, small producers in towns were often faced with stiff competition from imports of cheap machine-made goods from industrially developed England. Like we used to get Chinese products in cheap cost till now, and due to this Indian costly products were avoided. But very new idea of local ko karo vocal and take it to global has been put forward by our Honorable Prime Minister, which recently is taking forward the idea of self-reliant India, that is Atmanirbhar Bharat. So in England, in those regions of Europe where the aristocracy still enjoyed power, peasants, they had to struggle under the burden of feudal dues and obligations. Another problem was being faced by the weavers. So they too did a revolt in 1845. In Silesia village, weaving was the most widespread occupation. The misery of the worker was extreme. The desperate need for jobs had been taken advantage of by the contractors. मतलब villagers को job चाहिए और contractors ने उनको exploit किया. What by? By reducing the prices of the goods they order. In 1845, weavers of Silesia village had led a revolt against contractors who supplied them raw material and gave them orders for finished textiles but drastically reduced their payments. Means उनसे काम करवाना, उनको raw material देना और उनको wages in return बिल्कुल कम कर देना, that is reduced labor charges for them. Outbreak of revolt. Now, if someone takes work from you and does not pay the worth price, what will happen? Obviously, outbreak of revolt. On 4th of June 1845, a large crowd of weavers marched in pairs to the mansion of contractor demanding higher wages. उनके घर में ही आ गए. They were treated with scorn and threats alternately. A group of weavers forced their way into the house of the contractor and destroyed their window panes, furniture, etc. गुस्से में तोड़-फोड़ की. Another group broke into the storehouse and plundered it of supplies of cloths which they tore to shreds. हुआ क्या? The contractor fled with his family to a neighboring village, which however refused to shelter such a person. जाहिर है कोई भी ऐसे लोगों को पनाह क्यों देगा? Then he requested the army for help, and within next 24 hours the army came. In exchange to that weavers revolt, 11 weavers were shot. Now let us recollect that we are talking about the age of revolution from 1830 to 1848. And now in this 18th year came. 18th year means what? 1830 to 1848. This year 1848 came, and the rise of food prices, or a year of bad harvest, it led to widespread pauperism. Beggarliness means extreme poverty in town and country. In 1848, food shortage and widespread unemployment brought the population of Paris out on the roads. What was the shortage of? One was employment and the other was food shortage. जब उनके पास था ही कुछ नहीं तो they were on the roads. Barricades were erected and Louis Philippe was forced to flee. भागना ही पड़ा राजा को. A National Assembly proclaimed a republic and granted suffrage to adult males above 21 and guaranteed the right to work. Events of February 1848 in France had brought about abdication of the monarch. And now in the same year 1848, in the other parts of Europe like Germany, Italy, Poland and Austria-Hungarian Empire, men and women of liberal middle classes ने अपनी इन सभी डिमांड्स को, फूड शॉर्टेज की, प्राइस राइज की, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट की डिमांड्स को, they joined with one more demand, that was for the creation of a nation state. Here I would like you to recall that time when Purna Swaraj was demanded. With the other demands in India, Purna Swaraj was also added in the year 1929. Now here this demand for the creation of nation state in Europe was based on constitution, freedom of press and freedom of association. In May 1848, 831 elected representatives marched in a festive procession to take their places in Frankfurt Parliament. वो वहाँ पहुँच गए चर्च ऑफ सेंट पॉल में. They drafted a constitution for a German nation to be headed by a monarch subject to parliament. Again, I would like you to connect it with once the event it happened in France when Louis XVI was made the constitutional monarch. But here, when Frederick William IV, King of Prussia, was offered the crown on the same terms of being a constitutional monarch, he rejected it and joined other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. What happened next to it? Again, the revolt was suppressed. The opposition of aristocracy and military, it became stronger, and the social basis of parliament eroded. Means the basic requirements, that was of food, clothing and shelter, of getting rid of unemployment, it all went off. The two major things came forward were opposition of aristocracy and military as well. The parliament was dominated by middle classes who resisted the demands of workers. Actually workers की demand पे ही तो ये revolt शुरू हुआ था, but it was left, and the artisans, and consequently this all lost the support. In the end, troops were called in and assembly was forced to disband. Now, issue of political rights of women also was raising over there. How it was dealt, let's see. The issue of extending political right to women was a controversial one within the liberal movement, in which large number of women had participated actively over the years. Children, if you remember in Nationalism of India, I explained you about that how and why women they participated in civil disobedience movement. They came forward with Gandhiji and took actively participation in Salt March. But once they were denied for getting any representation politically, they went back. Women in Europe also had formed their own political associations, founded newspapers, and had taken part in political meetings and demonstrations. But despite of all this, they were denied the suffrage rights during the election of the assembly. And then conservative forces were able to suppress liberal movement in 1848 but could not restore the older order. Monarchs were beginning to realize that the cycles of revolution and repression, they are taking place again and again. It could only be ended by granting concessions. अब ये तो एहसास हो गया कि पूरी तरह तो conservatives जीत नहीं सकते. So they will have to give some liberty to the liberal nationalist revolutionaries. So thus, serfdom and bonded labor were abolished both in Habsburg dominions and in the Russia.